Hello, my name is Oz, and today I would like to dissect the film Anomalisa as a whole in order to truly understand the themes at play. When I first saw Anomalisa, I off the bat thought it was the most simplistic Charlie Kaufman film I had ever seen. However, as time went on, I slowly began to realize just how deep and intricate the film was. Like Kaufman's previous works, Anomalisa starts with a single theme of the human emotion and develops upon it to incredibly complex and profound levels. At its roots, Anomalisa is a film about escaping the mundanity of life by finding deep and intellectual connection with people. And this isn't exactly a hidden message, seeing as the film's description follows a similar idea. However, as the film goes on, it branches off into so many other ideas and themes of what it feels like to be human, which is something we are used to seeing in many other Kaufman films. With the help of Duke Johnson, who worked previously on Mary Shelley's Frankenhole and my favorite show of all time, Moral Oral, this beautiful film was brought to light. And thus, after seeing it for the fourth time, I thought I might as well share my thoughts about the hidden messages within, as well as my 2 cents about what the film really means. As a disclaimer, this is simply a loose film analysis. Many things I look at and see meaning in could simply be coincidental and unimportant. However, I'm pretty sure I found some very interesting hidden gems within this film. And on top of that, Charlie Kaufman himself says that everyone is entitled to their own interpretation of a film. Without further ado, let's begin. As early as the first scene, we are introduced to important themes that relate to our main character Michael and his struggles. The film begins with a jumbled mess of people talking out of turn that overlap each other. Like in Kaufman's previous film, Synecdoche, New York, Anomalisa both begins and ends on the same note. In Synecdoche, there is a specific gray color that almost encapsulates the theme of death in the film, that introduces the film and ends the film. Anomalisa follows the same rule by beginning the film with the muddle talking and ending the film during the credits with it as well. This is both to show that even after all the events our main character Michael endures during the film, he still ends up going full circle, and it also taps into the idea that Michael's struggles are being hidden behind all the clutter. Now at first you may be wondering what I mean by this clutter. Well, in order to explain, let's break down this jumbled mess of speaking at the start. Early on, before much of the talking becomes inaudible, we are introduced to the theme of regret, a theme displayed often through Michael leaving his former lover, Bella. The most clear line that represents this can be seen here.
Probably on Thursday morning. But I got to figure out where to throw the car. I'm thinking about going back to school. Yeah, I'm probably gonna go back. I got to get back for this other job.
However, as the voices become louder, we find that the most prominent loud voices are saying unimportant things such as seahorses rule, she was a rugby player, and beg bugs, just to name a few. Within all this unimportant clutter, however, we find hidden, important, dark confessions of people's struggles that are hidden beneath all this unimportant small talk. These lines include, "You should get checked for that," "I've never told anyone this before," and "I can't find hope." After starting to hear these dark confessions, however, we start to hear that the voices become very inaudible and muffled. Once the voices fade away and stop, we are first introduced to our main character Michael, and right off the bat we are introduced to his regret and sadness through his longing look out the window to another plane, almost to say that Michael is longingly looking to another life devoid of the pain within his. He immediately takes some pills that point is really open to interpretation. They could be antidepressants that relates to his sad state of mind, they could be suppressants for his mental disorder, Frigarelli delusion, or they could even be Viagra, which would directly connect to my theory of Michael's motives at the hotel being based around his own perversion. Once off the plane, Michael begins to listen to the flower duet from the opera Lakme, which has a very symbolic purpose for the film. For those that have seen all of Anomalisa, you will know that in Michael's dream, he dreams that the entire hotel is attempting to keep him from his newfound love, Lisa, by telling him that she is forbidden, and that he can have anyone else, but just not Lisa.
Have it with anyone at all. No, buddy. Just not Lisa.
In the opera Lakme, there is also a huge theme of forbidden love between the high priest's daughter Lakme and a British officer Gerald, who are forbidden to be with each other, which directly connects to the struggles Michael is having in his later dream. As well in this airport scene, we can hear the name Robert Hernandez.
Robert Hernandez, please pick up the white courtesy phone. Please, Robert Hernandez to the white courtesy phone.
And while this name doesn't have any direct connection to a living person, I knew after seeing the many symbolic names in Synecdoche, New York, that it would be important to find the meaning in every character's name. And sure enough, the name Robert means famed. The theme of fame is actually quite an important one when it comes to Michael. Everyone around Michael usually seems to be in awe of him due to his book and his speeches on customer service, yet he himself does not play into the fame, which will be clearer later on. Once Michael gets off the conveyor belt, we can see the recurring imagery of families and couples together, further feeding into the already seen lonely feeling Michael has. After this, once Michael gets into the car, we are first introduced to two major things. For one, we begin to see how Michael talks in situations, and we get a little hint as to his awkwardness and social anxiety, which directly contrasts with his job, where he teaches people how to sound friendly in customer service. Secondly, we get our first listen to the name of the hotel, the Fregoli, which is a play off the Fregoli delusion. Fregoli delusion, as I briefly mentioned before, is a mental disorder named after the Italian actor Leopoldo Fregoli, who was renowned for his ability to quickly change his appearance on set. The mental disorder is quite a rare one. It essentially means that you have the belief that different people are the same person, who just change their appearance as a disguise, which we can assume is the same disorder Michael has, seeing as everyone in the film has the exact same voice, other than him and Lisa.
Right this way, sir. You should check it out.
Hi, Daddy. I'm a pirate.
Not too much, I'm embarrassed to say. I'm working for the state.
Once at the hotel, if we listen, we again can hear this fame that Michael has. We can see this through the whispering of the hotel guests, the attentiveness of the concierge, and the starstruckness of the bellboy,
Right this way, sir. My name is Dennis.
Hi.
further showing that despite having tons of fame and people adoring your work, it doesn't necessarily make you happy. Extending even further, if we look at a poster for this film, we see a poster cluttered with tons of praise that surrounds the small condensed picture of Michael, who seems trapped by all of the reviews. And yes, this could definitely be coincidental, especially seeing as this isn't even the only poster. I just thought it would be interesting to mention. The bellboy, however, does more than simply add to the fame complex of Michael, but both mirrors Michael's problems in connecting and talking to people, as well as showing how standoffish and dismissive Michael is to the hotel staff. The bellboy is quite clearly vying for his attention due to his admiration of Michael through his long sorrowful glances and long-winded explanations in order to spend more time with Michael.
Nice weather we're having.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Yes, the weather is very good. Very, 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 very good. All self-explanatory, I think. Ice machine down the hall.
However, Michael either doesn't realize the bellboy's advances or simply wishes to be alone, which would add to the idea that Michael doesn't like the hotel staff.
It's our perception of the people in the service industry as them existing as what they do, as opposed to being individuals or people, or
which is not about them.
right.
It's about Michael. It's about us. Everybody's got their idea. I mean, I thought it was really important to me that this is how Michael sees the room service waiter or the guy who answers the phone. Whereas, having worked a lot in customer service myself, I know that there's a lot of animosity on the other end of that conversation too. From the customer service, you have to mask it. It's professionally nice, but you hate the client or the customer. I mean, it's true in every industry, because they're the bane of your existence, but they're also your paycheck.
Once in the hotel room, the picture on the right wall strikes us right off the bat, not only due to its colorfulness, but also its size in comparison to the other art in the room. And perhaps it's not a coincidence that it looks so similar to the structure of brain cells. Perhaps it was to relate to all the coming delusions Michael is about to have inside his hotel room. We also get a neat little Easter egg on the Fregoli Hotel notepad, where we can see a man on the bottom of the page that looks similar and is in the same position as the most famous picture of Italian actor Leopoldo Fregoli, whom the delusion is named after. Now at this point we are given perhaps the most slow and dull section of the film, but also one of the most important. Seeing as this film is about escaping the boring and mundane way of life, it's quite important to actually set the tone so we can easier relate to Michael and see the contrast between the first half's slow character study and the last half's engaging conflict. In this time, after Michael has entered the room and right before Michael calls up his former girlfriend, we are subjected to some very important themes and interesting symbolism. This begins with a telephone and its abundance of options that all mean room service. All these options leave Michael dazed and confused, and when you know it, later on in the film Michael has tons of options again, this time with women and not buttons.
Do you like any of these here? They're very pretty. That one's Stephanie. Stephanie, say hello to Mr. Stone. Hello. You can fuck me if you want, Mr. Stone. Or me. Any of us. Just not Lisa. Not Lisa! Lisa!
This idea of choice, while not quite apparent, is fairly important within the plot. Michael, despite being ultimately bored with life, generally has a lot of choices in his life when it comes to things that he can do and how many women he has vying for him. He's well off, famous, and overall well liked, yet despite this, he is ultimately dissatisfied. And while looking at the surreal amount of buttons on the phone and comparing it to Michael's life could be considered a slight stretch, it does fit well into how despite all that Michael has, he still feels depressed. We are next given a segment where we clearly get a sense for Michael's lack of connection with his family through the animosity on both ends of the line.
Donna. Donna. Donna.
He wants to say hi.
Okay, Donna, I don't want to...
Hold on. He's coming downstairs. He's in his pirate suit. Jesus. Here he is.
Okay. Hi, Slugger.
We also hear the names of Michael's family, which have meanings that can directly connect to the plot. First off, the name Donna essentially means lady or lady of the house, which almost serves as a plain placeholder meaning for a typical wife, which would easily connect to the already stated idea that Michael is bored with his family. The name also directly connects to how boring the name is when compared to the name Lisa, which means one who speaks with God or even a gift from God. The kid's name also has an important meaning. The name Henry translates in German to the ruler of the house, which could relate to how Henry is quite bossy and needs tons of attention as most kids his age need. Michael then practices speech for a bit, only to get frustrated and look out the window to see a man pleasuring himself. This both sets a tone for the sexual events and sex-based decision-making of Michael, but also foreshadows something to come later. After this, Michael decides to go grab some ice down the hall. However, during this time we overhear the sound of a couple fighting over a bitter marriage, almost to mirror how Michael is feeling about his marriage as well. Back in the hotel room after seeing the man at the window and getting reminded of his bad marriage, Michael decides to call up his former girlfriend Bella, who, like Michael's wife, has a name meaning that seems like a placeholder meaning for a lover. This is due to the fact that Bella means beautiful. While a very nice name, it does however make sense in the context, seeing as Michael treated her as just a thing of beauty, so he could cast her aside later. It's important to note that while he's talking to Bella, he actually ends up looking out the window where the man in his office was, or most likely still is, almost as if to show that this call was brought on by his lust and meeting her is simply a way for Michael to pursue more women. This would also make sense since at the restaurant, Michael even instinctively asks her to come to his room to Bella's dismay, but let's not jump too far forwards yet. Once at the restaurant, it's important to note that as Michael sits there lonely, we again see the imagery of couples all around him happy together. It's also important to note that once he meets Lisa and brings her to the restaurant, he is the happy one together with people, while all around him, people are seen alone. Going back to the Bella date, however, we clearly get a sense for how little Michael cares about her when he is unable to recognize her. And while it's not explicitly said that he doesn't recognize her, we can easily tell this when her and another woman walk into the bar, and Michael ends up following the movements of the other one, completely ignoring Bella, who is walking to the table. They sit down and have quite an awkward conversation that reveals a lot of pain Michael caused Bella by leaving her, further feeding into all the remorse Michael feels.
I was so pissed at you. I was so fucking hurt. I didn't get out of bed for a year. Do you realize that?
Jesus.
the conversation escalates quite quickly, and as previously mentioned, Michael invites Bella to his hotel room, which of course doesn't end well. Immediately after being rejected, Michael ends up going to the toy store the cab driver previously told him about. Now, there are two ways to view this toy store scene. The first one is the story being told to the audience, that Michael really believes that this is a children's toy store and walks in oblivious to the objects around him. The second, and more likely to me, is that Michael knew full well what he was getting into once he saw the store. For one, he looks directly at the window where it can be quite clearly seen as an adult toy store. He also walks by plenty of aisles where there are no children's toys to be seen. And last, and most important, he ends up going here directly after he gets rejected from his former lover, leading me to believe this is just a part of him trying to fulfill his lust. He uses the excuse that this was all for his son by talking about him to the cashier, but once this facade ends, Michael becomes mesmerized by the Japanese antique geisha doll, which we know he buys due to the fact that he gives it to the kid in the final scene. On my first view, I thought this was nothing more than another sign of how libido-driven Michael is. However, after my first rewatch, it occurred to me that this doll was in fact Lisa, Michael's to-be lover in this story. While it may not be apparent as of now, in the next part I will be exploring all of the many clues that point to this. And that's it for part 1. I hope you all enjoyed.